as when you're watching telly, but how Gary could pause it when he got to the stage that he did and go, I'll
Gary
go back to
pauses
it at some
everything
point.
apart from Fringe, which he seems to have watched.
Do you feel like throughout this top 10, we're being told off a lot by
No,
Luke?
no, I'm not telling you. I was not telling you.
There's running themes through Luke's top 10. Number one is a lot of it is based on writers and that he likes or show creators.
Yes, they are. I will give you that.
There's a lot of affinity with things he's either been to or been involved in some way.
Yes.
There's a personal dialogue along with each show.
Yes.
And thirdly, I feel like we're being told off for not having had the same things as Nick.
Why didn't you go to that same screening that I was at? You're right, actually, in terms of the writers, because Breaking Bad, although it's a US show, Vince Gilligan was in charge all the way through. You mentioned him on the X-Files.
Well, yeah, he was a writer on the X-Files.
He was the writer and the showrunner of this, and he took it all the way through. There was no doing the Jimmy McGovern and Paul Abbott and leaving halfway through. It was his vision, and it was one of those shows that never comes along where you feel like they knew what they were doing at the beginning and they took it all the way to the end and they knew what they were doing. When you're watching it as a viewer, you think, that makes perfect sense, I can believe that. It never went over the top. It was brilliant. It's Breaking Bad. Go and open your frigging tin, Matt, and start it. And
he would get told off.
I agree with you that you'll watch the first series if you do and go, I get it, but if you can, get past that. And I know it's hard, but the first series is 6 episodes, and if you can get into a momentum of watching it, then I think you'll get to my...
I've tried the first episode twice.
The reason I've paused it is I think it's a show that can be paused because it is so good. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. I disagree that it has to be watched like a binge watch. I don't believe, for me, it's a binge watch show. I liked to dip in, watch a few episodes, dip out again. There were some storylines that I really liked. There's a great storyline where Jesse, his girlfriend, played by Kristen Ritter.
That's super.
And that's a great storyline and how it ends and everything that happens. But I think after that, I was like, do you know what? I need a break for a minute. And I think sometimes the show is so dark that you do need to... For me, I needed to take a break from it for a bit.
You used to hate the people who kept going on about Breaking Bad.
I did, because it was...
then you became one of them.
Because for a long time, although I loved all these shows, and I think Line of Duty was a turn, although I loved the Lakes and Cracker and Coffee and Bodies... You
learned that you could love both British and American.
But even though I loved all these, it used to annoy me that whatever you liked from the UK, and I think it's changing now, it was never cool enough. So if you'd watched all these and enjoyed it was never cool to like UK television. I feel like it's changing a bit now, but at this point in my life...
Line of Duty and things like that.
Line of Duty, Happy Valley, Peaky Blinders, all the ones people go on about. But it was at no point during all my years of binging on stuff, it was never cool to like UK stuff. I'd say, I love this, and people would say, well, how come you don't like The Sopranos? And I'd go, and I'd end up... And
then you sit them down and force them to watch 2 series.
No, I wouldn't, but I'd end up pretending that I'd watched The Sopranos, because it was just easier, because... Yeah, you would.
I started watching a lot of American stuff first because because we had Sky and because Channel 4 used to show quite a lot of it, and it was only sort of in recent years that I mean the British stuff has started to improve.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I went talking about Inspector Lindley and things.
Yeah.
And Judge
Whereas
John Deed
the American shows we used to get 24 Prison Break,
exactly.
ER as I mentioned, on things like that. A lot of those to start off with were on the terrestrial channels and stuff before Sky. Channel 4 had Lost and
there was that time where Sky literally took
Channel 5 had Prison Break.
I've met more people in my life when they speak about television have more in common with Gary than they do with me, because most people... No, you're an oddity. Most people... No, because...
Who would have thought out of us I'd be the most normal?
It is very rare, because it was just never cool to like UK stuff, and I feel like it's changing a bit, but that's why I did Breaking Bad. I'd done Homeland prior to it, and I don't know what made me do Homeland, I can't remember, but it was thanks to a football tournament that I started all these. The penultimate one, Gary had said in his podcast, in his list, that he looks back on Nordic Noir as enjoying it at the time, but not wanting to re-watch, and I can agree with that. And the one I picked wasn't my first foray into foreign drama. I'd seen Hostages from Israel and obviously the first series of The Return from France, but nothing hit me quite as hard as the first series of The Bridge did. I could have watched all 10 of those in one go if somebody had kept supplying me with sandwiches. What I loved about it was a great whodunit, which as it turned out had a satisfying conclusion. But each story carried on, but they also felt like individual stories at the same time. And I just thought that's so clever. I watched the first series of The Killing subsequently, and although I could appreciate it and appreciate where it had come from, it didn't hit me in the same way. I think it is not only a great example of what Nordic noir is, but it's a great example of a crime drama. It just surprised the hell out of me because it was just so many twists and turns, and it never got confusing, and it wasn't self-indulgent.
And as well, of course, it introduced us to Saga Noren, which is the kind of
just an iconic character to me.
Yeah, and awkward and hard to get along with, but yet still very watchable and relatable.
Series 3, which was the first one without Martin, as it turned out, I thought was not quite on a par with 1, but if I'd not seen all the Martin stuff, still a blooming good 10 hours of crime drama.
I think what they did was that they went away and they thought, right, well, we need to replace a big character like Martin. What do we do? And what they did was they wrote storylines. I just found him quite
annoying, that bloke.
Yeah, but I don't understand that, but there was a reason why, and they drip-fed you that reason, and then by about halfway through...
I will have to catch up with it. I never finished Borgen either.
I suppose I'm waiting for a time. I'm waiting for a writer's strike, an apocalypse.
That's not going to happen here.
I
don't want to worry you, but if there's an apocalypse, the likelihood that you'll be sat there watching telly is...
But you know what I mean? I'm waiting for, someone to break both my legs so I can't leave the house for a while. Something like that.
Oh, we'll pop round. Matt's got a week off work.
You mentioned that, yeah. But you know what I mean? And it's probably never going to happen. I'm probably never going to watch half the shows on my list.
It's waiting for a rainy day, but when a rainy day comes, there's always something else.
It's quite overcast at the minute, so...
Taking away the fact that the Bridge is Nordic noir, it's foreign, it's got subtitles, it's all irrelevant to me because it's just a really well-crafted crime drama. It's better than any other crime drama I've ever seen.
I just felt that series of The Killing was just the first one, definitely. The 20 episodes were so focused. And
if I'd have seen them in the order they were supposed to be, like The Killing first.
Was almost a bit too much, whereas The Killing felt more authentic, if that makes sense.
When I watched The Killing, watched The Killing, I realised how fast-paced The Bridge was. Because The Killing takes its time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Over those 20.
Certainly the first series.
We guessed Gary's final one.
Uh-huh.
We're kind of up to present day, and it's not a UK show. I'm sure Matt knows.
Well, I would guess the Americans. Based on the amount of the time that you go on about it.
It's vinyl. It's a swerve.
No.
Vinyl. Bobby Cannavale plays a record producer who...
Also, and I know this is slightly news, but Vinyl was picked up for a second series after its first episode. Has now been cancelled.
Can we just clarify, it isn't Vinyl? I was being comedic. It's a show, as Matt quite rightly predicted, and Gary quite rightly predicted, The Americans, which is one of the few American shows that Matt and I enjoy, and Gary sort of, for whatever reason...
I've seen the first series.
No, I know, but it's rare for Matt and I to love an American show.
I think the other problem is now is it's gone on to ITV Uncle, which I don't have.
Yeah, which unfairly... being because that's the Sky thing, nobody else can access, which is really unfair.
Although, if you want to watch Houdini and Doyle and the Frankenstein Chronicles, it's the only place to go.
Can we not have Houdini and Doyle and the Frankenstein Chronicles as part of my list MP3, please? Thank you. The Americans, again on paper, I shouldn't like it. It sounds daft. It's about Soviet spies in the 1980s who live a life, as Americans, hence the title. They have young children who are fully assimilated and American as far as they're concerned. They leave them alone at night and go out and do all these crazy things. And on paper, I should go, how ridiculous. It's about as far away from Cracker the Lakes.
One thing I've always wondered about the Americans is why, out of any profession, they chose to be travel agents. When they're out a lot of night, couldn't they pick a job?
They could have been like working nights in a factory or something like that, couldn't they? I don't know why they'd,
but I suppose then it's a case of well, what is the most, unlikely job for a spy to have? And you can sit there and think about it for hours, and then they've got travel agent. Oh yeah, I suppose so.
In a link to Breaking Bad, where Walter White's brother-in-law Hank is a FDA agent. Then you've got in the Americans Stan Beeman moving next door with his family, who is an FBI agent. The reason I like this so much is because we're 4 series in now. It doesn't feel like it's dropped off a cliff at any point, which I associate with a lot of American shows where you go, series 2 was my favourite, and then it went ridiculous at the end, or series 4 was good.
Do you think that has something to do with the fact that these are shorter series?
They're 13 episodes, or the last 2 series have been 13, and they are concise, and they follow an arc, and that's it, and then they're back next year for another 2. You immerse yourself in the world when you're watching it, and the most incomprehensible things become comprehensible because of the way it's handled. It feels completely genuine and completely real, and I adore it. And I think what they're doing now, involving young daughter Paige, played brilliantly by Holly Taylor, is just enhanced the show no end.
These are Luke's Desert Island Dramas.
Are you sure you don't want anyone to stay with you today?
Yeah. Speak Russian.
Мы тебя очень любим, солнышко.
She said we love you very much.
I need to be alone.
As Gary says, if you're a Virgin customer or a Freeview, you just can't see it, and it's such a shame that it gets hidden away.
Yeah, I don't understand the decision, but
I struggle with not being able to see Houdini and Doyle, like Matt says, but not being able to see this as well is almost heartbreaking.
It was on my list for the longest time, and I think it's better that we've had differing lists, because it lets us talk about more shows. Like we've all had Line of Duty, and me and Gary had The Wire, but it's good that we've had a varied list.
My list wasn't influenced by yours. Yours certainly wasn't influenced by anything, and Gary's list was his list, and it's all...
As you said, the idea behind this being Desert Island Dramas is it's about as much as how this show has affected you, and why you have picked it, as it is a great piece of television.
But again, the reason I picked Breaking Bad and The Americans is because they helped. There are other shows as well that I've watched from the States and really loved, but those two I can watch and go, this isn't an American drama, just like to me The Bridge isn't a foreign drama. It's just a blooming good drama that I enjoyed. There's a few years ago, even when I was first doing the podcast, where I was wrong and I went, well, if it's American, I'm not really that bothered, and I just think that was so stupid to be. And if it's foreign, no, I'm not going to read it.
You need to get a list together,
Well, no, I feel like I've done all the ones that I want to do, and now
there's
I'm just
so much more.
I've done The Nick, which I thought was superb with Clive Owen. I've done The Leftovers with Justin Theroux, and that was about as far out of my comfort zone as a TV drama viewer as I can get, and I'm really looking forward to the final series of that.
You go and watch Human Target next. That's your next project.
And then Rizzoli Isles. There were too many Rizzoli Isles. And I feel like now it's not about liking this, it's just about appreciating what I've learnt over the past few years. It's just appreciating great telly for great telly. Everywhere is capable of making great telly, and who'd have thought I'd have been watching an Israeli show? Who'd have thought I'd be able to say that? Who'd have thought I'd be watching an Israeli show and being absolutely hooked by it? So that is our Desert Island Dramas. We always talk about the shows that we loved in the podcast. Gary will always slide The West Wing in at some point, so I wanted to give people the platform to talk about the shows they loved, and that's why we've had to come all the way over to the Desert Island.
Basically, you saying that after this point we're never allowed to mention those shows ever again on the podcast?
I think that would almost be impossible.
Yeah.
I think you'd get.
Especially
I think if I told you.
Well,
I think if we told you that you couldn't mention the West Wing, you'd get West Wing Tourette's.
Or the X-Files.
Yeah. Anyway, download this and subscribe on iTunes, because we will be back with our regular podcast soon when telly improves.
When
Bye-bye.
there's telly.
When there's actually
Bye.
telly. Bye.
These aren't ordinary dramas. These are desert island dramas. Make sure you